What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of V4 to Your Eternity. This is episode 12, I believe. And with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yep. So the episode went. I mean, it went exactly as we thought it would. I mean, I was hoping it wouldn't, but it was inevitable.
I just feel like
based on what was happening.
There's just way too many death flags for this character. I figured it's. He was gonna either. It was probably gonna happen in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, also the circumstances of how Fushi truly feels about having someone die and then knowing that they're dead. I mean, it's pretty much dawned on him right now that he can't protect everyone. With all those knocker creatures are just going after him.
Yeah. So this episode picks up like right where the last one left off, where Gugu was supposedly falling down into the ocean, but at the last minute he holds on to these like fleshy tentacle things that start coming out of the cliffside, and Fushi goes to try to save him, but basically the entire building is about to collapse because of the knockers attacking. So Fushi ends up transforming into the Oniguma, or the bear form, to try to save everybody from the falling debris, and tries to tell everybody to get out before the entire building collapses. Of course, Gugu, like I actually thought he was going to fall into the ocean the way that the last episode ended. It ended on that cliffhanger, but Gugu ends up, of course, climbing back up. Thanks to the weird fleshy tentacle things.
Well, no, I think it was a group of people.
Yeah. Okay, never mind.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, he saves himself thanks to those those things. But yeah, those people help him back up.
And of course, soon afterwards, Gugu immediately goes back into the collapsing building to find Fushi transformed into the bear, and then of course he tells Gugu to save Rin's parents, who are both injured from the accident. So he manages to save both of them, but he goes back to save Fushi again, and this causes the knocker to take form into the bear, which of course it steals one of his forms again. And we find out that that the knockers can also turn into other elements besides the tree that it turned into in the previous episodes.
Yeah, technically this is some kind of weird fleshy creature, but is using like stone, I guess, as some sort of armor to protect itself.
And Gugu tries to burn it with fire, but of course, because it's in its stone form, it has very little to no effect. So Fushi and Gugu try a variety of different ways to penetrate its armor. So Gugu convinces Fushi to lend him several of his spears, and they manage to open a little crack in its armor before Gugu is able to burn it through. And then but unfortunately it's not enough for for them to catch the core on time before it gets away.
Yeah. One other thing too is that it's we're also wondering about Fushi actually, what happens if he transforms after having been in the same form for so many years. Apparently, if he transforms back into his other forms, and he transforms back into his human form, he ends up reverting in age. So I guess the years he aged are just reversed. So apparently that's how that works.
Yeah. So if he manages to stay in that boy's form for so many years, he can't age. Same thing would happen if he were to change back into, what was it, March's form.
Yeah.
But of course he mainly uses the boy's form as his default form for most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, unfortunately, they end up leaving their guard down, and this causes the knocker to end up to crush Fushi to death. But at first I thought it took the March form, but it didn't look like that was the case by the end of the episode.
Uh,
So I think so. I guess
I think
the
it
only
did absorb
form
that
it
form
managed.
because if you remember, his creator came back and said that it took one of a part of him.
Yeah, which is well, it's still the bear form,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, but unfortunately, like the entire building ends up completely collapsing, and then Gugu is about to get crushed, but Reen manages to save him at the last minute. But unfortunately, like I said, the building just completely collapses on pretty much everybody up to that point, and Fushi manages to barely get out of it, but he's having a hard time trying to deal with the knocker that's still in its bear form.
Yeah. Basically, while this is happening too, Gugu is pretty much like trying to is on top of Rian while they're both under this pile of debris, and he's just trying to hold it all up, trying to save her from getting crushed by it. And of course, we all know where this is going because we know he's eventually going to get crushed by this debris. And it's pretty much here where they're both kind of like, I guess, sort of honest with how they feel about each other, sort of. But because, she must know that he's probably going to die. And that's pretty much what ends up, of course, as we know what ends up happening with Gugu. He just does end up getting crushed by all the debris and dying that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the same time, Fushi also feels, Gugu like dying, even though he's not like technically next to him. And but back to Gugu and Reen, like, yeah, they do end up confessing to each other and making each other promises to go back to the flower fields, in which like the accident initially happened with Gugu getting his face crushed, but yeah, so they do manage to to kiss each other before Gugu ends up dying, and then soon afterwards Fushi ends up taking his form. But of course, like Fushi does try to take advantage of it, but at the same time he's still distraught at the fact that he's coming to the realization that Gugu's dead.
Yeah, and it's kind of what we were saying in the earlier episodes when this arc started too, that we kind of felt like something, even then we felt like something was going to happen to Gugu and it was going to affect Fushi and have much more of like an impact on him and help him, I guess, develop more as a character because of his death. And that's kind of what it seems like, because he does kind of just lash out at the at the knocker and just because of Gugu's death. But of course he just kind of wildly like blows fire at it, even though he knows it's not going to do anything.
No, and of course the knocker knocks Fushi off the cliff again, and then they fall into the water. But just when it looks like the knocker was about to take advantage, it just all of a sudden just manages to escape for whatever reason.
Was water its weakness or something? Like, as it just fell into the water and it disintegrated?
I don't know what the reason was. Like, I thought it could have been Fushi's creator that might have saved him at the last minute, but it seemed like we just don't know like what the reason is for the knocker to just suddenly just retreat like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to show up again because if you remember, I feel like we did see this something that looked like this knocker in the opening with these zombie creatures. We saw these fleshy looking things in the opening, and it looks like this knocker I guess can zombify people or create these weird zombie creatures, supposedly, according to what we saw in the opening. So I guess that's probably what's going to happen next, is that Fushi will encounter these creatures, because it seems like of course for now it's gone, but it's probably going to come back and I guess create these zombies that'll supposedly fight Fushi, I guess.
Yeah, and so Fushi does manage to get back up from the cliff, and he tries to try to find Gugu, but unfortunately he ends up finding his corpse on the ground. And then of course Gugu's brother manages to get to the wreck in time. Well, soon afterwards. But he also finds his body and then just pretty much carries him on his back back to the back to the old man's shop. And soon at the same time, we see Gugu, like, I would assume like he's just like living a dream in the afterlife. Supposedly, like he sees everyone alive and well, and then of course his entire face is like completely healed, and he's not wearing the mask anymore. But of course, like March, and like by the time she died, like Gugu realizes that he is he's not in the real world anymore. So his spirit manages to get back to where to where the old man's shop is, and he sees everyone mourning his death.
Yeah, it is. I didn't even think about that about that until now, but it is kind of very similar to like what we saw when March died, for having the dream of being older and like I guess doing the things I guess she wanted to do. A similar thing is something similar I guess happened with Gugu, where he was dreaming about like what he really wanted.
Yeah, and also like what happens next is we see Fushi talking to Gugu in spirit form, and at the same time we also see the spirit of March like hiding behind a pillar at the same time. So is it possible that we might see Fushi interacting with Gugu and March, like I don't know, in their spiritual form?
I guess that's what it's implying. Because it seemed like he's talking to his spirit. It's like he's either talking to his spirit or he's talking to himself, and he thinks he's talking to Gugu, or he's at least imagining he is. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it could be like considering the kind of show this is, I'm gonna go ahead and assume he's most likely just talking to Gugu's spirit.
Yeah. So, but soon afterwards, we see Rin, of course, makes a recovery, and she, runs back to the shop to try to find Gugu. But unfortunately, like, Fushi, like, finds out that Rin is on her way. So the first thing he ends up doing is, taking Gugu's form and tries to, act in this place.
I assume
which
this
is kind of
of him to maybe like comfort her, and that he knows that she's obviously going to be grieving his death. I'm not really sure like how to interpret this, because I don't know if she, I guess I should assume she must realize he's dead, or because everybody else obviously knows he's dead, or like I don't know, or she doesn't know he's dead and she literally thinks that Fushi is that Gugu is still alive. But I feel like I don't know. I guess thinking more about it, it makes more sense that she would know.
Yeah, everyone else saw what happened to Gugu afterwards, so she would either find out about that, or she would obviously find out about it herself.
Because like my initial reaction of this was like, why would Fushi try to fool her into thinking that he is Gugu and Gugu is still alive? But when I thought more about it, I guess what he was trying to do is maybe trying to help her with, trying to make her feel better, even though she's obviously probably going to be grieving, even knowing that Gugu's probably most likely dead.
To be fair to Fushi, he doesn't know how to handle certain situations just like this, because obviously he wanted to do right, just to take to be in Gugu's form and try to comfort Rin, but I think he knows, part of him knows that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And also the fact that we find out that Fushi has to leave to try to find the knocker that took one of his forms, or part of him, or something like that. So he has to go out and to stop it himself.
Yeah.
So now like he tells Rin, in Gugu's form, that he has to go away for a while, and he of course we don't know when he's gonna get back, which honestly I doubt he'll get back in time. So like he so Fushi leaves the shop, and then goes off, I guess, in another adventure, to try to find the knocker that took his form. So that's pretty much it. And then at the end of the episode, we see Reen, later that night, at the same flower field, thinking about Gugu, and then her dad just shows up afterwards, and then she pretty much tells her dad in a way that she knows that Gugu's dead.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what she was saying, more or less, because she was saying, you won't be able to see him. He's not here anymore, or something like that. I guess in so many words, that's what she was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, she said like she is, she's in love with Gugu, but she tells her dad, like, I think she said, that he's no longer here and he's with Fushi now.
Yeah.
So that's
I took that. I feel like there's like two ways you could take that, in that she means like he went off with Fushi, or that he is a part of Fushi. But I think it's more the former, is that he's a part of Fushi, is what she was trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a great episode in my opinion. I don't know. It's like we knew it was going to happen, and I mean, it's unfortunate that we had to lose another character like Gugu, but there was just a lot of death flags just thrown left and right.
I mean, like, I have a feeling this might be like what the sort of formula for the show is that Fushi's going to meet with some different people, and they'll affect him in different ways, and they'll end up like dying tragically, and it'll help develop him, I guess, more as a character. I feel like that's maybe where the show is going. But
yeah, but he feels like he's, I don't know. I have a feeling that he's gonna be in this mentality that he's gonna be a danger to everyone else he's going to be close to.
Yeah, that might make him think that like he shouldn't be around people, or he should distance himself because he might cause him to get hurt or something. Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see how Gugu's death really ends up affecting Fushi in that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, compared to March, it's like Gugu's death is, just hit him, the hardest, because he's been with him like
years,
for 4 years, and they treated each other as like, as brothers. But but going forward, this is really, I think Gugu's death is going to affect Fushi, even more now.
Yeah.
And how it's going to motivate him and going up against the knockers, even without Gugu, is like, we don't know how he's going to affect it. Like whether or not like he's, the new people he's going to end up meeting in the next arc, whether or not he's going to be close with them or not, is, it's going to depend.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about this one. I thought it was definitely one of the better episodes. Even though, like I said, I did pretty much predict what was going to end up happening to Gugu. It was, I still like the way it was done. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen next. But unfortunately, the next episode is going to be a recap episode. So I guess they're taking like a break for a weekend before they get to the next arc. So yeah, we won't be doing a review next week because it's just going to be a recap. But yeah, so interested to see what's going to happen in the next arc though. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have too much else to say. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, I really love this episode. I think this is one of my favorite ones out of all the ones that come out so far. I mean, I'm curious like how they're gonna end this show, based on like how many. I think they have like 20 episodes for this season.
It'll probably just end at the end of an arc, because that's usually how anime adaptations of manga that are unfinished tend to go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it all depends on like how what kind of story they're gonna end up telling for Fushi. And I also hear that the manga, or I think, is it a manga or is it a light novel series? Okay, so I also keep hearing that that it's still going right now, so it's possible they might make another season, but but we don't know up to this point how long it's going to take.
Yeah. I mean, so far this has been decent. It's it's definitely pretty different in terms of a like a concept for a series. Like, I mean, it's fairly unique. I kind of like that about it. And it's definitely like it does have certain elements, but it's otherwise pretty different from the creator's other work, being a silent voice. Like it's this is a pretty different series in comparison. But yeah, like I like where the story's going so far, and it's generally been pretty good. So yeah, I've been pretty impressed with it. Yeah, like I said, I'm interested to see what happens next. And unfortunately, we won't be doing another episode review next week because it's just going to be a recap. But yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. But yeah, I guess that being said, so I guess until like the Monday after next, we will see you all next time.